So what we're going to do is we're going to go through some, or you're going to go through some scenarios. I'll give what I would do as the committee. And guys, if y'all have any opinions, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook,
We'd love to hear all the
whatever.
scenarios because I know there's plenty of them out there.
Yeah, come up with your own scenarios, and if you come up with any, we'll bring them up on the podcast next week.
Yeah.
So let us know. Hit me up at Between Pylons or Jacob at
Thomas J.
Thomas J.
Waters.
Yeah,
That's
whatever
easy.
you want. Yeah.
That's chill.
All right, I'll let you start.
So
off.
I'll start off with the first one. We'll go a lot of SEC basis, and we'll get to the rest of the conferences too. I promise we will. But so that means we're gonna lock Ohio State and Clemson. We're locking them. They went out. They're in. So we are strictly talking SEC. LSU. They win and they're in. That's easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Georgia. They win and they're in. Do you agree?
I mean, not necessarily.
They beat LSU in the SEC championship game.
If
you don't
Minnesota
think
wins out, they're in.
But we said that Ohio State and Clemson are
locks.
locks.
Okay,
so
that's right. So you're saying Ohio State wins in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. There's no other team out there. Okay, that's fair.
So
I forgot that Ohio State would play Minnesota in the championship.
Yeah. So
that's
what are you going to do? I think the committee's going to have a choice whenever it comes down to what I think is going to happen. LSU is going to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. I know that's a hard gimme, but I'm going to go ahead and give me that in my mind. Then we have a LSU SEC champion, Ohio State Big Ten champion, Clemson ACC champion, the 4 spot up for grabs, with a 1-loss Pac-12 champion in Oregon or a 1-loss Bama.
So, in this scenario, LSU's already beaten Georgia and LSU's already beaten Alabama.
Yes.
Right? I would think we're looking at Oregon at that 6th spot, a 1-loss Oregon team.
Pac-12 champion, too.
And Pac-12 champion. I would think you put them in there because LSU's already beaten Alabama and they've already beaten Georgia.
Of course LSU's, and I'm talking strictly the 4 spot between the Bama, Oregon.
Well, I understand that, but the 4 spot plays the 1 spot. So
yes.
I'm basing it on that. So who is LSU going to play in that divisional round of the whatever you call it? I would think you would put Oregon in because they're the only team that hasn't lost to LSU. And they haven't played them, of course, but like Georgia already lost in this scenario. Georgia already lost. Alabama's already lost. So do you put them in? And now, of course, if a couple teams lose here and there, maybe you put Alabama back in and let them play LSU again.
We're going minimal chaos because this thing could get full on stupid.
Could get crazy,
if LSU loses to Texas A&M. Yeah. What? We're not going dumb.
So yes, that 4th spot would go to Oregon, and it's not because I think Oregon's better than Alabama or because I think Oregon's better than Georgia. It's truly just because I look at the matchups and how that plays out, and I think it's not fair to LSU to say I'll play Alabama again.
Yeah, here's Nick Saban.
Yeah, and it's not really fair to Oregon to look at it and say, okay, we have 1 loss at the beginning of the season.
1 play.
When it was 1 play away, and they've already lost to LSU. Give us a shot.
Now here's another fold though that I think the committee might look at between Oregon and Alabama is it's your boy Auburn. I'm telling you, they're going to look at how Alabama plays Auburn. Assuming, because that's in Auburn too. If Bama is able to go into Auburn and win decisively, the committee may look at Alabama's win over Auburn versus Oregon's loss against Auburn, and that could be the telltale thing. Auburn caught them on a neutral site, and I don't know how they're looking at losses compared to wins, though. I don't know what they're thinking.
I think you just said that they're already favoring the.
That's my opinion based on Georgia, because if you. you can't tell me they're not weighing losses there then. Because if it's 1 loss, Bama's...
Yeah, I stand by the fact I think Georgia's ahead of Alabama solely because if it ended... I think that's how they do. I think they say if it ended today
this is
how we'd have to put it. And I think you say that because Georgia... because Alabama just lost LSU, so if you put them at the 4 spot, you're making Alabama play LSU again. And I know that's maybe not a fair way to look at it, but I like that.
I think that's how you have to, though, because if not, then you go into this standpoint of, okay, well, why even do a ranking? Because we know Georgia or Bama's not going to be there towards the end because Georgia's either going to win or lose. Bama's going to win. You got to have the rankings out there for a reason.
I agree with that,
it can get a little hairier, too. You think Utah has a better argument. So I heard someone today say that the Oregon-Alabama thing, Alabama beats Auburn, Oregon lost to Auburn, Bama gets in over Oregon. So that's your transitive property of why Bama should get above. What if it's Utah and not Oregon?
I don't like the transitive property argument.
It gets a little hairy, but I think they look at it.
And I feel like you can look at it, and I think there's some credence to it at times. I just don't feel like a week 1 loss to Auburn on a neutral site is
it should not damn your season. No.
Yeah, it shouldn't damn your season. Which we've talked about that. Like that's
what
a common.
What loss is better though? That LSU is the clear-cut number 1 in the nation.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's where.
I mean, you're right. It's
and
tough.
they're going to look at Alabama's, and it's not fair, but they're going to look at Alabama's history of always being in there.
Yeah.
And Bama was able to do this 2 years ago, and they got in. I think Bama, if you're putting the top 4 teams in the country, they're going to be there.
I mean, I agree, and I think a lot of this is, I'm not an Alabama fan.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Which I mean,
there's a lot majority of the people outside of
there's a lot of people that are going to look at it and be like, "How can I keep Alabama out?" And I'm really trying to be as unbiased as possible.
There's people who are ticked that we have 2 SECs in. They don't want it,
Yeah, but at the same time, you're right. I tend to think that 4 spot should go to a team that hasn't already lost that big game.
Okay.
And maybe that's not fair because if LSU, if this is reversed and LSU is in that 5 spot and Alabama would be in that 1 spot if they had won, I would look at LSU and be like, well, LSU's beaten all these other teams. And we're talking about Alabama.
Alabama's record, exactly.
They would only have beaten Auburn. And I'm sorry, I don't think Auburn's enough to say they're leapfrogging some other teams.
I think Auburn is legit, and they're like a tier 1, just below it team. Like they're going to ruin someone's college football playoff. They're not going to make the playoff yet. They have young players. It's
that's fine.
The offense wasn't ready yet. It's no problem. So let's open it up a little bit more then and say Minnesota.
Let's get crazy. Let's hear a wild one.
Okay, so you want to see how bad? You want to see how bad it could get?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
I'm gonna take notes on this one.
So 2 years ago, take some notes. Auburn ran the table 2 years ago. So I'll run with this one. Auburn beats Georgia. So you have a 2-loss Georgia team now. Auburn beats Bama. That's a 2-loss Alabama team. Both of those teams are eliminated, right?
Yes.
Done. Okay, no problem. So then Georgia beats LSU in the SEC championship game.
God.
You want me to get a little crazier with it? Because I will. Okay, no, hang on. Minnesota runs their table, ends up beating, I think they play Iowa and they play Wisconsin.
Yeah, they have 3 of their last 4 games are against ranked opponents. So they have a tough schedule, not to mention the Ohio State team that they would have to play if they went out.
Yeah, and when they do win out. So let's say they do. Okay. I don't think they will. I think they're going to lose to Iowa personally this week. I think they're coming off a really big win. Iowa's a physical team. Everyone has a good plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah,
Iowa's going to do it, but we'll run in this scenario. We're going to run with Minnesota taking down Ohio State.
Okay, in that championship game.
Yes,
and they're undefeated.
I think at that point you have to put Minnesota in clearly, Ohio State in at a 1-loss to the championship.
Yeah,
Clemson's a lock. I'm sorry, I don't see anyone on Clemson's schedule. It's a 2% chance on the. I'm sorry. There's no way.
Essentially automatically in. We can get crazy.
Even with getting crazy, and they're still not there. Yeah. And then Utah beats Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. So we have a lot of weird stuff that happened there.
Okay. So in that scenario, I still think LSU's in.
1 loss.
If Auburn beats Georgia and Alabama, those are both 2-loss teams.
Yeah.
And Georgia beats LSU in that championship, LSU is still the better team, assuming that's a close game, right?
LSU will be in off of 1. I agree.
Yeah, I think LSU is in no matter what. Assuming they only lose 1 in the championship, I don't think it matters. So then we're talking about Minnesota. Minnesota would be in, so you'd almost Clemson would end up being the 1 seed. Minnesota undefeated would have to be the 2 seed.
They'd have to be.
Yeah, LSU ends up going to the 4 seed because they just lost. You can't.
And then Ohio State too, though. At 3?
But then you're having Ohio State and Minnesota play back to back.
I know, and
that's bullshit. Oh, that's hard.
Though. And that's really not that crazy because all of those.
What you'd have to do is you'd have to put LSU 3 and then Ohio State 4.
Think about how crazy it could get.
Yeah.
Because that's literally involving games, not big upsets. Auburn's 12.
Yeah.
There's a chance at home.
Yeah, it's an upset, but it's not a big
Those are
upset.
all 1 through 12 ranked games that these guys will be clashing off to end the year. Even Oregon, Utah.
Yeah, and then Utah's out, or Utah and Oregon can't get in that scenario.
I think the Pac-12 with the way it goes, and it's sad to say because they play a lot of good ball out west, but people just don't.
They don't respect it. Yeah.
No, it's not respected in the same.
It's that late game, everyone's
Yeah, it's just how it goes.
It's what I'm watching at 10 o'clock at work.
But the committee's going to have some really, really hard choices, and the reason I mentioned the whole not looking at quality of losses, I think that's how I look at stuff.
Yeah.
I like to see a team at their best and at their worst.
Yeah.
Because I think worst is that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Georgia shows it one? Yeah.
Because we're looking at, I mean, and it doesn't count because they won, but I mean, we're looking at Clemson. They almost lost to
and I think
North Carolina.
I think the committee's contradicting themselves because they kept Clemson out of the top 4 based off of that, and that was a close win.
Yeah.
But they're putting Georgia above Alabama when I think Bama's loss is way. I mean, no one can even argue that way better than Georgia's to South Carolina.
They lost to what, and nobody could argue is the best team.
No,
like nobody could argue that.
So I just don't see what they're. I don't see the continuity.
There's a lot of crazy scenarios. Do you have any more? Any other ones you want?
I mean, no, I don't want to get like dumb with it.
Get dumb with it. Let's do one more crazy one.
Well, here's the one that we're not talking about.
All right.
Baylor winning out.
Baylor could win out.
Baylor's 9-0.
So in that same scenario, if Baylor wins out, then one of those teams is LSU out.
Let's not even take that same scenario. Let's take the cookie cutter scenario. Well, this is just a clean scenario of LSU wins out, SEC champion, Ohio State wins out, Big Ten champion, Clemson ACC champion. Baylor wins out. They're in.
Yeah.
That's end of story.
Yeah.
That's Big 12 championship.
You have 4 undefeated teams in.
There's still a chance for that. There's still a lot of ball to be played.
Man, I feel like that would be too really bad.
I just do not think that Baylor has a good program. I don't. They went to triple overtime last week with TCU. They play Oklahoma this week.
They play Oklahoma.
So see what happens there.
That's not gonna be an issue.
But what? That's what I'm saying. What if it does? And then we have that issue in our face, and it's like,
is there a way Oklahoma gets back into it? Or are they already out because they lost to such a bad team?
If all that chaos I think Oklahoma could get back in. I think Oklahoma's a better football team than Georgia.
That's what I'm saying. I think Oklahoma fell to a bad team.
I think it's a way better argument, too.
I think they're a better team than Oregon. I don't think that it's a much of a stretch. I think they're better than Georgia. I think it'd be a great game against Alabama.
Better than Minnesota, Utah. I
would say they're better than Clemson. I mean,
I really like Oklahoma.
Yeah,
and I think we're kind of biased because we want to see the story.
Yeah. I mean, there's always there's going to be fan in us. We're not going to deny that. We have the fan that just wants to see a great game. And I'm not gonna lie, in that scenario that you were talking about, that could be 4 undefeateds. Those are 2 bad games in my opinion. LSU would stomp Baylor, and Ohio State would stomp Clemson.
There we go.
Yeah.
I think you need to look at strictly best teams in the country.
Yeah,
and I know it's hard to say because the losses are there, but
okay, so let's do this. Let's ignore record, and this is all hypothetical. Don't take any, like, for those of you listening, don't take this part of it as anything other than just what we personally think.
Just spitballing ideas.
No, and not even ideas. Take the record out of it. Like, ignore record, and you're just basing it on the football teams you've seen. Who do you have in what record?
Clemson's not in.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we both agree on that. In my opinion,
Ohio State. I'd have Ohio State at 1. Yeah. I've always been big on Ohio State. I think they're a complete team, especially with Chase Young's thing getting knocked down to 1 game, so he's good to go after this week. He'll be fine. Ohio State, LSU. Oh man,
I already have mine.
Go ahead.
I have LSU, Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma in that order. That would be my top 4.
That's my 4 in a different order, but yes, that's my 4.
Yeah, because I think we're both high on Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been killing it, other than 1 bad game.
It's true.
Killing.
They have a really good offense. Their defense, they don't pride themselves on having a good defense.
They have a better defense than they have.
They do.
But I mean, this is a team that puts up, or that wants to put up 50 to 60 points a game.
That's what they want to do. They want their defense to get you down in the count early or get the turnover, and that's what they thrive off. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not big on Oregon. I'm not. After what I saw that week 1, I know it's different, and they've blown out a lot of people since then.
Yeah, but they haven't blown out anybody real, though. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't beat any, like, legitimately good teams.